Hi, welcome to the Lighthouse sessions. I'm excited to have my friend Allana here today. So, Allana, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll go back to talking about crazy ADHD brains that we have.
I'm Allana Bykes. I'm the co-founder and owner of Neurodiversity Group based here in the Edmonton area. I'm a neurodiversity coach and educator. I work with folks who are neurodiverse or who support someone who is neurodiverse in understanding themselves more fully and working through the challenges to get themselves from struggling to functioning. And if they want to go further, then to get them from struggling to thriving. And we work through all the pitfalls and steps and problems and challenges along the way, because being neurodiverse is complicated and challenging, and we shouldn't have to figure out how to function all by ourselves.
I love that. And the reason you and I are talking, somebody connected us. The question was for me, they said, who do you want to meet? And I said, well, I love neurodiverse entrepreneurs because either we're trying to help other neurodiverse people, or let's be honest, we're struggling with things and we go, how can I help others with this same thing? So I love that you focus on that neurodiverse piece. And it's interesting because the more I get to know my uniquely wired brain, and I still call it weirdly wired, but I've been told weird is a negative word, and it's like only if I think it is, but I think it isn't. We can help others because the more we understand ourselves, the more we can adapt our workflow. So what are some of the things you're focusing on to help yourself and your community?
Oh, that's a really good one. Okay, so last week I ran a webinar on the intersection of ADHD and perimenopause.
Ooh.
So helping folks understand how their hormones interact with their ADHD symptom presentation and management, as well as how their hormones interact with their medications. And their neurotransmitters. So like layers upon layers upon layers. It's a 1 hour seminar. So we didn't go super deep. It was very much like the top notes. And then talking about what perimenopause is, how that affects your hormones and your neurotransmitters, and where those two conditions overlap, commingle, duke it out. Rough and tumble out on the back quarter. And then we also talked about how folks who are experiencing both conditions, how they need to talk to and advocate with their practitioners so that they can get the care that they need, because neither practitioner is deeply educated in the other condition. And so often we struggle to get the care we need because they don't know.
Well, and honestly, I will put in my 2 cents. And again, I can speak to the ADHD side. I have no input on the perimenopause other than I can speak from what my wife tells me. But I find it fascinating that with just ADHD, the range of treatment and the options are so varied. And my number one question is, how can you treat me without knowing exactly how my brain is wired? And looking at neurotransmitters, for example, we know very little about the chemistry of the brain, which again terrifies me. That, oh, we'll give you some drugs and we'll see how you feel, and it's like, that's a terrible approach.
Yep, I completely agree with you. So much of the work that I do is really bridging the gap between, so we do work in two spaces. We do corporate work where we're teaching the workplace about neurodiversity and the behaviors of it, and then how to recognize, support, and accommodate. In the one-on-one work that I do, which is my passion, I love the one-on-one work. That work for me, the easiest way to describe it is really taking the medical language of your diagnosis and bringing it into your everyday behaviors. Because a lot of times the medical language of our diagnosis doesn't actually support us in everyday. Like, what actually is time blindness? What is that? How does that actually show up in my life? Or executive dysfunction, or there's so many layers. What are those actual presentations? And so bringing that down into your actual everyday life, and then determining what is and isn't working and what we're going to do about it. The ADHD brain is fantastic. It is incredible. It is such an exciting place to spend time. And also, often we're so in our heads, problem solving and thinking big thoughts and connecting weird dots and patterns and just seeing the world like a galaxy in a lot of ways. But then we're so busy being like out there in our brains that we're often not recognizing the right here. Yep. And struggling with it. And so many of us benefit from that, like that conversational piece with somebody else who's like, wait, hold on a second. I hear you keep talking about this one thing in different ways. Let's spend some time there, because that's not, like, you've talked about it not serving you. It's not working for you. And like, I'm almost 10 years into my diagnosis, and like so many folks who are late diagnosed, my reaction was to overperform, to overcompensate until I burnt myself out. I am sure, like, my story is unique to me, but the arc of it, it's not unique. There's nothing special about it. Almost everybody goes through it. Overperform until I burn out, and then in the recovery of that, finally took the time to really deeply learn about my condition, like about my brain, about my body, and how to actually work with it instead of fighting it. And that kind of work often leads to pulling apart other aspects of your life that don't serve you. And it's really hard, really uncomfortable work to do it by yourself. And it takes a lot more time. And when I did that work, I didn't know that I could have somebody to walk beside me for it.
I love that. And one thing I want to point out, Allana, is that we all have this diagnosis. And, and believe it or not, I see people online who know they have ADHD, but they don't have their official ADHD secret club card. And I'm like, if you know it, it doesn't matter. I don't think you need the diagnosis. But what comes to it, what I find fascinating is, we describe ADHD, for example, as a spectrum disorder, which assumes in my world that it's two-dimensional, and, it's plotting X and Y, and we can go, oh, you're there. Okay, we can do this. I found that in the UK, they call it the sphere. I'm like, that is so much more accurate, because it's not one-dimensional or two-dimensional. And I think that's the thing I'm seeing now is people are saying, well, my ADHD is worse than yours. And I'm like, I'll let you win that contest every time, because for me personally, I look for my strengths. And this is what I think is helping me, is how do I master the strengths and how do I minimize the weaknesses?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not even a registered participant of the Suffering Olympics. And I mean, like, I grew up in the era of like, you'll finish your plate before you dessert, because there are children starving in Africa. Like, I grew up in an era of your suffering isn't that bad. Somebody else always has it worse, right? Yeah. And there's some benefits to that thinking. I mean, it can help have a bit of perspective of like, okay, look, I know this feels like a 3-alarm fire, and it really isn't. It really, really isn't. But that invalidation also doesn't help in the moment if what you need is to be validated. So I'm not playing the suffering Olympics. If if somebody needs their disabling components to be more disabling than mine, fill your boots. Fill
Yep.
your boots. I'm focused on what I can do to be functional in my life. I'm focused on modeling that in the folks around me. I'm focused on being what I needed that I didn't have. So I'm 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 listening to my brain and my nervous system when it's asking for things. So I'm fidgeting in public spaces and I'm not apologizing for it. Now, I'm very lucky that my version of fidgeting is socially more acceptable. I don't do the things that make people really uncomfortable. But my stimming, I'm doing that in public. When I'm in loud spaces, I'm popping my earplugs in, my loops in so fast, and I'm not apologizing for it. When I first started doing that kind of stuff, I was making choices about pieces that were really quiet. Like I was choosing colors that mimicked, like my loops. I used to buy ones that were like clear or that were flesh toned. Now I'm buying hot pink and lime green and like I don't care. And
Yeah.
some of that is that I don't care. And some of that is that I never sought what I needed to support myself in making those spaces accessible. And I want other people to know that they can do that too. And what I love is I'm starting to see other people popping earplugs in spaces. I'm starting to see people show up with a fidget in their hand. I'm starting to see people show up in those spaces too, addressing their nervous system in real time so that they can function in society and not go home completely depleted because they masked and they stifled all their body needs the whole time they were out. And that is why I'm doing what I do.
I love
That's
it.
the stuff that fills my boat, fills my cup.
I'll share this. I don't leave the house without these. And my wife cringes. She's like, couldn't you find a little more subtle? And I'm like, no, these things, it's the difference between me throwing something at somebody because they're making me angry with noise, or me sitting calmly and listening to my son's piano recital. And I think that's, we, especially, if we've grown up in the 70s, it's just bottle it up, hide it. And now it's like, and this is where I talk to people. If you need to be part of that pity party, great. That's your thing. But the reality is, the more I get to know who I am and how I function, and I think this is the part a lot of people don't like, is I look in the mirror and I'm looking for the flaws and the cracks and the things, because I want to find out ways to adapt and to fit in into my brain. I don't, I can make other people comfortable, but if I'm uncomfortable in the process, I got to look at what's going to give.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. People laugh at me because I love networking. I will do networking all day long on my computer and I'm fully energized. But then people invite me to live events and I'm like, nope. Because I got to hear you, I got to hear the whole room, and then there's always somebody spilling coffee or dropping a teaspoon, or, it's like, so.
I mean, so for me, the sound suppression tool out and about that I use is loop earplugs. I saw them on a TikTok video from an ADHD creator in 2021, I think. I was working at the time. I actually was out. At the time I was working on the road, and I was doing a 2-week-long road trip. And the community that I was in for the weekend, I couldn't see any of my customers on the Saturday. I could squeeze a few in on the Sunday, but I couldn't see anybody on the Saturday. And so I took the opportunity to go to the Human Rights Museum in Winnipeg. And if you've never been to that museum, I think it should be a mandatory part of existing. It is flawed. It is imperfect, but I think it's such an important part of learning, who we are, who we've been, what we've done, what we should never do again. It's an incredible, anyways. It is also a very multi-modality museum. So every little nook you go into has audio and visual, plus there's people milling around, and every little spot has different audio playing. And I think I was on like the second floor, and I was so overstimulated from all the noise and all the sounds, and I couldn't function. And so I popped my earbuds in, but they were connected to my phone, and my phone kept pinging and ringing, and all the work stuff was coming in, and I was getting calls and stuff. And so I just impulsively, standing there in the museum, ordered my first pair. And I had no idea that impulsive purchase, in a moment of like serious dysregulation, was going to be one of the first steps in really substantially changing my relationship with myself. Because now when I pop them in, I'm popping them in before I'm dysregulated. I'm noticing the symptoms before I'm over the edge of the cliff. And over the last 4 or 5 years, my runway from like being viscerally, irrationally angry, like that, I don't experience that anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was overstimulation. And so now that runway is really long. Now I know as soon as my shoulders start to go up, as soon as my heart rate gets a little bit faster, I know I'm having that nervous system reaction, and I have tools to intervene. And that tiny little message of like outside me taking care of younger me, or every time, it reinforces a much more positive relationship of I hear the whisper of my body. I have a need, right?
Yeah.
And for most of my life, I was someone who couldn't hear the scream of my body saying you need something. Now I must sound absolutely crazy to people who aren't on this kind of a learning journey. And honestly, 15 years ago, me would have been like, girl, smoke a little less, drink a little less, whatever you are doing, stop. Like, whoa.
Either stop or increase meds, whatever, something, right?
Right. But and so, you know, when I talk to people, I talk about the journey of how to get here, because so often people talk to us about how good it can be if you know these things, but people don't talk about where we started versus how we get there. There's so much conversation about the destination of whatever program we're selling or whatever tool. Like, there's so much talk of the destination, but so rarely do we talk about the vulnerability of the journey and the imperfection or the disconnect before we even realized there was a journey to be on. And there's so many folks that I get into conversations with who are still in a place where they're not hearing the scream, and they're in that distress of, you know, way too much going on and not enough sleep and not enough whatever. And their body and they're not okay. They're functioning. But they're not okay. And sometimes we need a little help figuring out how to get to the head of the trail.
Well, and I think it's interesting. I'll share an insight I had a while ago, but I personally believe that almost every corporate onboarding of new employees is doomed to fail, because almost all of it assumes that you're fresh and rested and relaxed and your nervous system is calm, and they're speaking to you like a rational, logical human being because you look like one in front of them. But my aha was that almost every new employee, they're coming in, they're in fight, flight, or freeze, and they're going, oh my God, do I belong here? Where's the bathroom? If I have to go to the bathroom, where do I eat? Like, they're just trying to survive their first day. And meanwhile, we got the corporate binder out and we're teaching them the anthem, and you know, it's just meant to fail, because even normal people have nervous system deregulation.
Absolutely. 100%. When we do our demo, we do a presentation on dysregulation, and we do it through the lens of like the entire population. We talk about dysregulation, and there's this layer where we're like, okay, so if you're neurotypical, this is the commonality of the experience. If you're neurodiverse, we're just going to jack that up, like way more, right? Which means that every, the amount of rest more, the window between okay and not okay, way smaller. Like everything gets like compressed.
Yeah. It's funny, Allana. My son had a kid in his class who was autistic, and he was a desk flipper. And the teachers were always like, oh my God, it was such a shock. And I'm like, you didn't see the 5 things leading up to it? And I think that's the thing. People aren't aware of themselves, let alone aware of others.
Oh, 100%. That feels like a lesson that comes with aging too, is getting to that place in your life where, oh, yeah, no one's paying attention to me as much as I think they are. I'm not even paying attention to me as much as I haven't had anything to eat or drink in 8 hours. No one's paying as much attention to me as the voice in my head is concerned about my performance, whether it's what I'm wearing or what I'm like. But that comes with, I don't know, I think that comes with age in a lot of folks. I don't know. There is this really, when I get to have conversations like this one specifically, there's this like weird sensation rolling through my body that's like, man, if 25-year-old me could hear me now, like she'd be so proud of where I've gotten to.
Yeah.
She'd also be like, girl.
Yeah. 25-year-old me would go, you're a nut job.
Yeah.
I'm going to share something with you. One of my friends, she runs a virtual assistant agency, and one of her things is all of her executives have one of those Oura rings.
Yeah.
And so she trains her VAs to monitor their systems for them so that they can give them what they need in the moment, because we are really bad at self-care. And people are like, oh, just stop and eat. Just stop and go to the bathroom. And it's like, you don't understand. I am not physically here anymore. I go off into some other world. It's a real inconvenience to have to come back and take care of this organism. And so it's brilliant because they anticipate, and they only work with ADHD entrepreneurs, but they monitor the nervous system. Somehow it ties into vagal nerve and things like that. Yeah. But it is fascinating as a group how bad we are at self-care. And then when people go, well, you should have saw this in someone else. And it's like, I don't see it inside me. Like, I literally invented hangry because I forget to eat.
Yeah. And that's a big part of why I do what I do, because you don't see you with the detachment of somebody outside, right? Yeah. I can love and care for my client, but I'm not in the weeds with them. And almost any work anybody does, there is that, like, when you can step out and see the whole forest, you can see the pieces that we can't see for ourselves. It's why I have my own team, because I can't see the things for myself, right? Because I've learned the lesson that, I'm great. My brain is hardwired to solve problems, so much so that it's a bit of a problem. I get on calls with people, like with friends. Somebody called me last night with a challenge, and I heard the whole thing, and then I started to share, and I think I got a sentence out, and I was like, hold on a second, took a deep breath, and was like, before we go any further, how can I be of service in this moment? Did you need me to hold space for you so you can get it off your chest? Did you need me to hold space and then we can strategize? Did you want some, like, how can I show up for you in this moment? It's taken me years to figure that practice out. But we're not great. We are incredible human beings. We're incredible brains, man. Some of the things we can connect and the way we can see what hasn't happened and all the ways it could happen. is incredible. And yet, absolutely, we can't figure out how to get up from our desk and go to the bathroom, even though our bladder has been screaming at us. One of the most powerful tools that I brought in, and it does come with a cost, but it is virtually barrier-free, virtually, is a Boost shake. They make one that's got a pretty good protein portion, and it's the one that they prescribe if anybody's going to be on a liquid diet for an extended period of time. So it's got really good like micronutrients. It's got stabilizers and preservatives, and like, look, it's not organic, grow it, preserved it myself, whatever. But that's not the standard we're trying to meet, right? The standard we're trying to meet is fed, nutritional quality, functional. We're feeding the brain, we're feeding the body.
Yeah.
I keep those shakes in my fridge. I keep them in my car. I keep them in the trailer when we're traveling. Like, they are never very far from me. And anytime I push too far and have that like fridge open, there's nothing to eat because everything requires cooking. And literally the formula in my brain now is can't make choices, insert Boost.
Yeah.
Can't make decisions, insert Boost, because it's 6 swallows. I can suffer through whether it's warm or cold. It's better cold, but
Yeah.
I can push through that because I have learned, I've connected enough dots, and now my self-talk, now my baseline is low enough that I'm regulated almost all the time. And so that tool for me, that's the safety hatch. So I will chug one of those.
Yeah.
Maybe have a glass of water, maybe go to the bathroom, come back, open the fridge again, and start pulling things out and start making dinner or whatever. But that's the interruption now for me, instead of I can't do or I'm stuck. If I'm anytime I'm hungry, anytime I can't make choices, anytime I'm cranky or short fuse, like all of that, Boost, water, bathroom, rest, like, and it's been interesting. I have a couple of young nieces, and over the last couple of years, like very young, old, like 2 and a year and a half. I've been helping out, right? I'm Auntie Lala. So I show up for my sister and my sister-in-law. And when I've shown up on days where they're like, I don't know what she needs, I don't know what, I am so tired. I walk into that room and I'm like, well, has she been fed? Yeah, she ate half an hour ago. Is she dry? Yeah, she just got changed. Has she been burped? Yeah. Is she fed? Is she watered? Is she clean? Is she dry? Is she and immediately in my brain, I'm thinking about the pyramid, Maslow's pyramid, right? And I can offer that for other folks. And for a long time in my own life, I was like, why am I so angry? Why am I so? And so I'm trying really hard to use the tools that automatically, like before I'd even thought about it, the solution has popped in my brain. And I'm trying really hard to be like, oh, how would I, if I was talking to my friend, how would I help them? How would I serve them in this moment? And man, that thinking has changed so much for me.
I'm laughing because I have a friend who has a young autistic child, and I said, I'm going to guarantee 80% of the flare-ups come from either hunger, thirst, and he's like, oh, that's oversimplifying. And I'm like, just try it for a week and tell me I'm wrong. And he never came back. So I assume either it worked horribly or terribly, but for us, it is that simple. It's like, have I eaten lately? Have I drank lately? Have I gone to the bathroom? Now, I could talk to you all day. You're fun, but I have to be respectful of your time. How can people get a hold of you? How can they find out how they can work with Allana and what you do?
So, the easiest way is to head to our website, candorgroup.ca. So CANDOR group.ca. Our website is undergoing some adjustments. So right now, you find me under the Neurodiversity Coaching tab. that's probably the easiest way. There's some contact forms on our website that get you into my inbox. They can email me directly, Allana, 2 L's, 1 N, no H, at candorgroup.ca. I'm on LinkedIn. We have an Instagram account. I'm working on getting better at it. I'm a lurker in social media spaces. I'm like a lurker commenter. I'm working on it. But getting into my inbox is really the best way to go about it. When it comes to working with me on the one-on-one coaching education work, I do offer complimentary consultations so we can discuss if it's the right fit for someone.
Awesome.
And they can access that through my email.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeff. This was a blast.